This is a clouds weather alert. Good Saturday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud coming on the air right now. There's a flash flood warning. This is northwest of Tallahassee, just on the periphery of Bainbridge there, including portions of our area out west there till 345. You can see that there on the map. I know we've had some heavy rainfall around Stark here and toward that 11 o'clock hour. I picked up over an inch of rain there on my Davis weather station in about 15 minutes or so, but not enough to really cause, that flash flooding risk here too much. But off toward the west, a different story in that they've seen quite a bit more rain over a longer period, but quite a bit more rain overall. I'll go ahead and read off the warning here from the Weather Service in Tallahassee. A flash flood warning there for northern Gadsden in our area, as well as southern Decatur there and southwestern Grady. Those are our counties, Seminole and Jackson, just outside the viewing circle. But at 12:36 p.m., Doppler radar and automated rain gauges indicated thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Between 3 and 4 inches of rain have fallen, and the expected rainfall rate is 2 to 3 inches in 1 hour. So flash flooding is either ongoing or expected to begin shortly there. Again, this warning goes to about 3:45. That's the time frame right now that we're expecting. I know it's a situation here that, excuse me, I'll kind of leave here, that radar running. I'll leave that radar running here when I'm not on. We're not going to stay wall to wall with a flash flood warning unless it's really just overwhelming, and that we could have quite a few of these popping on up here in the next couple of days. There's flood watch in play for a lot of our zones, actually down to the south a little with this. I'll try to get over that, here, and go over that and get into toward that here as we look in, the next little bit. But it's a situation here where we do have, a flash flood warning here right now in toward parts of our area. Again, we have areas of Gadsden as well as Grady and Seminoles just outside of our area, but then Decatur's in our area. We have here a situation where we have a Quincy there included in this warning. I'll kind of pause this loop here so we kind of get a better idea of what's going on. So we'll pause this loop and you'll be able to see we have all this heavy rainfall here in towards some of these spots. I know just got to be really mindful here as we're looking towards some of our zones. This is a fairly rural area, which helps some. But you can see here just heavy rain, in a pretty widespread manner. It's just been kind of trending over these areas here. And that's problematic at points as we're trying to update you the very best we can. Again, just trying to keep you guys safe and informed here on this a Saturday afternoon. I know it's a scenario here where we do have maybe a decrease in instability because of all the rain around. So that'll reduce the actual severe thunderstorm threat here for this Saturday. But as you see here, we have all this rain. And then let me go to our flash flood risk product here. And you'll be able to see it's a pretty significant one near the Decatur and Gadsden line. Also some along the coastal areas here and Taylor as well. And then you can see also we have a flood watch in play for Wakulla and coastal Jefferson, Taylor, Lafayette, Suwannee now, getting further east, parts of Columbia, and then this is all over the place here, as we look in toward that Monday. It's not just a few counties. It keeps getting more, and more, expansive here. We're seeing more counties get included, more zones get included with the flood watch. It's actually outside the flood watch. It's just how things are sometimes, meteorologically, as we see things kind of setting up with that flash flooding risk, a pretty significant one here. As we look right now, it's showing a high, to very high risk here of flash flooding. As we're looking at the overall situation right on the edge of our viewing area here right now, as we're looking around Recovery and Oak Grove and Hannahtown there. Again, a flash flood warning until 3:45, a very high risk, according to this Barron product of flash flooding right now, based on the algorithm as we're looking north of Gretna. So really be careful. This could get upgraded to considerable. We'll have to be mindful of that. That would go off as a wireless emergency alert on people's phones, on your phones here as we're looking toward that zone. Because we've just seen very high rates of rain. I know those numbers I was telling you about from the Weather Service, it's a scenario here where those may be even underdone just a little bit based on some of the information I was seeing within our radar product here with the sufficient rain production. I'll just kind of say 1 hour rates here, in terms of just what we've seen in the past 60. I mean, if I say the actual rate, it'd be even more, but these are really totals. This is a better way to show it, but that's just 3 inches, in 1 hour, which is really, just a big number. And then you see as we go further back about 5 inches here, and then 6 hour totals, you kind of get the idea. So a lot of rain. I mean, there's actually another way to show this here that, really, really kind of makes it dramatic. This is showing more like 8 inches, but that does seem maybe, I think the numbers Tallahassee has maybe a little underdone. This looks a little overdone, hopefully, in the these areas. It's more rural, so, not an area that we would necessarily be getting, all the reports out of here as we're looking. And, that helps in terms of the damage potential there as well. So, again, just being very mindful here of this flash flooding risk. I know we're going to be watching things, into Monday here with a potential. Just the overall patterns giving us that. I mean, it is, this rain is keeping temperatures down as we're looking at things right now, in a lot of spots, not everywhere, but a lot of spots, the rain, is keeping the temperatures down, some, those temperature readings, it's keeping it down, just being very mindful of that. Let's go ahead and see where else we want to go here. I know we don't have a formal day 1 convective risk around here. General thunderstorm risk toward our region as we're monitoring things. But we do have that flash flooding risk. Let's go ahead and throw that up here. I'll go ahead and put that on up here. The day 1 excessive rainfall. Look at the slight risk for a lot of our area here. That flash flooding risk, a 2 out of 4 on the scale. So again, need to be very mindful of that here as we're looking at the overall situation. Again, a flash flooding risk here. You see several other alerts in here. You have to watch, but I know we also have some of these other alerts, advisories. Some of these could, be flood warnings here at some point as we look ahead in toward the timeline. So again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest on this here. Again, a significant flooding threat, really, in terms of just lasting multiple days. I know we're in a drought, but, maybe not significant in that we don't have just an overwhelming, risk level. I know this looked like it didn't want to work there. We'll try that. Hopefully it'll, I don't know, that's not really loading in right. So we'll go ahead and move away from that. But again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here on the situation. I know it's a risk that's just going to last for a while in terms of the overall timeline. We are in a drought situation here. We are in a drought, so we do need rain in a lot of spots, but too much too quick and still be problematic. So again, it's got to be very mindful of that here as we're looking at things the very best we can. I know just looking at some of these zones, though, this is just, this shows a little bit less on this mode here. There's some varying modes I can kind of show of this here as we look. I mean, this shows a much higher rain rate, so, multiple inches an hour. But again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here as we're, informing you the best we can on this a Saturday afternoon. Again, another day where we're having to track some convection here, but this time it's more of a flood threat, more of a hydrology threat here. As we're looking, I know you see quite a bit of lightning. Now, that catches my attention around Jacksonville Beach just whenever thunder roars go indoors. I know here in Bradford County, we had a situation a couple hours ago. The sun was out. It started raining, and all of a sudden we got a gully washer, is how I described it here. Is an unusual situation as we're kind of looking at things between our radars. I'm going to go back 2 hours here. You'll be able to see how, and I actually need to go back 3 hours because you'll be able to see it come together better. So, I mean, we'll go all the way back here, scrub back, and the timeline, you didn't see much lightning, and all of a sudden, you saw quite a bit of lightning. The heavy rain really came together right over town and just off to the east of town where I'm at in my rural area. So, again, really telling that story here. As you can see, a little bit of it there, here and there, but then it really came in just for about 15 minutes, a very, very high rainfall rate. Just really leading to well over an inch there east of Stark in about 15 minutes. So, just, wild to hear numbers like that, but definitely, worth taking note of here on this Saturday afternoon. So I know we're looking there in north-south Georgia, some lightning going on up there as we're looking south, west of Waycross. Again, just trying to be very mindful of things here. Again, we do have a flood watch situation that we're going to be mindful of here as we look ahead in toward the timeline, in toward that Monday here. I just have to be kind of careful because some of these spots, are getting a lot of rain, more than even, the European model is always going to be kind of a broad brush, but we're getting localized spots that are getting, really up there already on the rain gauges. We still have a couple more days to go of this on and off. So again, we just have to be very mindful here as I look. I mean, so 24-hour rainfall here. And, the overall picture does show a good bit of rain, in some of these spots even more, like toward areas there off of, just right at southern Levy County. This is showing right here, just a really high number around Inglis there in the last 24 hours or so. As we're looking at things, we have some of these different alerts in play here. The flood watch is in play here as we're tracking things. But let me change this around just a little bit. Bear with me here as we update you. I'm switching some colors around, so things are going to change, and really just the way this is done. I need to put our flood advisory ahead here in the system, of our flood watch. That way I can click on it here. So we're going to do that real quick. Just bear with me here just a moment. It's a one-man band, but it's all about trying to give you the very latest to inform you, your friends, and your family. So I just want to be able to click on some of these flood advisories for everybody as the situation does go along. So just have to switch this up just a little bit here. So right under flood warning now. So what I can do, and I should be able to click on these, maybe, there we go, aerial flood advisory. At least I can click on it right there. But again, tracking the situation carefully here. Just trying to be very mindful, just trying to be very, cognizant here as we're looking at things, just to try. And I think I do need to actually add aerial flood advisory in here as well because, they're actually turned a little bit different. So that way I can click on these ahead in the overall scenario here. So aerial flood advisory now in there too. So that way I can kind of see the counties involved with these flood advisories. These are a level below, like a flood alert here as we're looking. And I'll go to Tampa radar for a moment, but then we'll kind of bounce between some of these here. It's a situation. We have an aerial flood advisory there in toward parts of Levy County. That looks like that, rain rate slacking up there for now. Within parts of Dixie County, Taylor County, a flood advisory. You see one towards Suwannee County there. And then as we look, we've had, we had a flood advisory, but then it got superseded by this flash flood warning here toward areas in the Big Bend of Florida and in towards southwestern Georgia. So again, looking at that Tallahassee radar right now, let's go ahead. We'll go back on over towards some of our different modes here. You can see this shows just a huge amount of rain the last few hours. That may be a little overdone, but let's get into some of these roads here. Recovery area, that community, but then you have areas around Booster Club Road, Smithtown Road, Prince Road, Duke Wells Road there around the Faceville community, and then in the more Gadsden County as well, around Mount Pleasant Road, Howell Road there, so just being very mindful here of things with the overall situation. Again, a flash flood warning there in play for parts of area as we kind of look at things. It's for parts of Decatur, parts of Grady, parts of Gadsden counties there until 3:45 in our area. That includes a little of Jackson outside of the area and Seminole as well. But, it's our focus is on Decatur and Grady and Gadsden here. Again, some significant rain is falling there in a fairly short period of time. Again, flash flood warning there for northern Gadsden, southern Decatur, southwestern Grady in terms of the county area there. And in terms of my county area, let me remind you guys of my 38 counties that I cover here real quick as we are, trying to give you guys the very latest. Again, we won't stick with these wall-to-wall unless things go a little bit, a little bit more into that considerable range, or if we're seeing just a, stronger signal, because this could be something where we're, on and off with these for the next couple of days. So it's something where it's, something that's not just a high risk of flash flooding with an excessive rainfall outlook like that, but it's just a, longer term thing here with the overall pattern, because tomorrow, honestly, could be a little bit worse based on what some of the modeling's been showing here in toward the weather center. So, it keeps switching around some though, but let me get our HRRR. No, you know what? I think I better just use the euro, because HRRR is going to probably get a little bit too really kind of honed in on some of this here in terms of some of these different numbers It's just gonna kind of pick spots. I just still see a broad trend here better if I go to the euro mode of this. So it's gonna underdo it some, but we'll go ahead and show that to you here now. It's just a broad brush of the averages per se. Some isolated areas are getting way more than this. This goes to the next several days though. As we're looking, I mean, I can cut this off a lot earlier, and you see it's still pretty similar. Amount for a lot of spots. A lot of rain. This is widespread. Isolated spots can get way more than this here with these efficient rainfall producers, these gully washers here on this Saturday afternoon. So again, just first day of August, and we have busy weather. Still here. It's a different kind though. It's not severe thunderstorms. It's that flash flooding risk again. This is honestly a pretty low end type of forecast here in terms of some of these numbers. Let me go to some of the GFS information here. So I'm gonna switch some of this up. Bear with me on the fly here. It's gonna take me just a moment. You know what? I better not do it like this, and it's gonna throw some of our stuff off in the system. I was gonna try to change it up on this graphic here, but we'll just go ahead and remind you guys of the covered area again. Let me see if I can throw up another way because these seem underdone. We'll just have to continue to watch the trends here. And I'll just go ahead and I'll get our HRRR one together real quick here as we're looking, as we're watching things. I know it's going to overdo it in some spots, but I feel like some of this is kind of underdoing things a little bit. So we need to be very cognizant here. I want to make sure you guys know there is a threat of some significant totals in some of these different spots. So let me go ahead and go through here and just kind of change some of our settings on one of my graphics here as we're, trying to update the best we can. So we'll take it to Monday. We'll take it to Monday there at about 6 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and update a couple things on a graphic here. Honestly, it's way underdoing it as well. I'm double checking to make sure I have all my settings right here because I don't want to see the wrong information. And I put this graphic together on the fly for everybody, but we'll go ahead and show this to you. I mean, this is into Monday. It's not showing near as much. I mean, some spots, this is starting off early this morning. It wasn't even picking up on this stuff toward Gadsden and Decatur, and we've seen several inches. So, yeah, you just never know in these situations here with the model, and it'll just throw things off, to be completely honest. This is the HRRR in early Monday, but again, I'm not confident at all because it's supposed to start off earlier on today here in the timeline, and it's barely picked anything up toward Gadsden and Decatur. And again, we've seen, multiple inches of rain, as I've alluded to. I mean, one radar mode showing 6 inches there. The Weather Service, their alert is talking about their 3 to 4 inches having fallen, with the total, rates there, with the situation adding, to that, with 2 to 3 inches per hour occurring. So again, just right now, I think that rate has dropped some, but we've seen several inches, and here's my point. As we're looking at things, again, things are very unpredictable. Again, the models weren't really picking up on those two anyway, in terms of the rainfall forecast. Again, you just kind of have to watch and wait here as we're looking at things. We have a little bit of wind in here, but nothing overwhelming. Some lightning right at the coast whenever thunder roars go indoors. Same toward parts of southeast Georgia, toward Madison, Hamilton, Suwannee counties here. I mean, there'll definitely be some, lightning here with this accent, and you still got to be very careful, but it's not as, widespread. It can still catch you off guard, don't get me wrong, but it's not as widespread as our typical summertime stuff because of all the cloud cover here. And you do see a handful of power outages as well as I look at some information. Satellite here kind of showing the overall pattern here as we're looking at things, as we're trying to update you here with all this convection here in the overall scenario. So, I mean, we did have some sun breaking through earlier here on Stark, though, which can increase in stability is right when the rain was happening. That was something, having that still out there at that point. But again, just trying to be mindful of things here, trying to be cognizant. Let me put up our Barron model in just a moment here. I'm going to try to get that together and see if it's showing anything a little more accurate because, I think it's picking up a little bit better. It's not showing as much on Sunday right now, so that might be a little bit of good news here because it seemed like it was handling things better than some of our other models here lately. Granted, I mean, all the models have had, some issues here to be completely honest, but, this pattern and just not getting enough data, but it seemed like it's been handling things a little bit better maybe, and we have our boundaries on here. So we'll kind of watch things with the Barron model, and you can kind of see here just some of this accent through the afternoon. It kind of breaks up to points as we look here, and then as we get into toward that Sunday, you see some stuff coming back in our southern and eastern zones at points, and then you get into toward the afternoon, and you don't have near as much coverage as it was showing yesterday for Sunday, but still a lot of coverage, still a wet day for sure, and then stuff still coming in as we get into toward that Monday here, and more rain. It's kind of as a slow drip here in some ways, I guess you could say, with some of this flooding potential. So. And we'll still be watching some rain on that Tuesday. So back to the current radar we go. We'll probably wrap this update up soon, and we'll just leave the radar running for everybody at home. But I'll check questions, comments real quick. Let me go over to that computer source. I'm going to go ahead and check to see here what we have. I see Thomas Watson here. Storm Watson there, Top Cat Watson. AJ Watson, Fire Trains Watson. Just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me on this Saturday afternoon. So we will go back to a no audio here stream in just a moment, by the way, in terms of I'm not going to be talking as much here considering this is going to be kind of a slow drip over the next few days. It's not a severe thunderstorm warning. These flash flood warnings are going to last for a while. If we're seeing like more, the red at the time the warning's in play, just all over the polygon, we'll stick with it. But this is in a more rural area, and it's something where it's more of a slower type of threat, and it's already really coming to play into some of these spots. So I just don't see any sense in me staying on here for an hour or two talking through this. We might have to for some of these, don't get me wrong, but right now I think we've kind of covered everything we need to. Fowlestown, getting some heavy rain right now. Faceville there, Recovery. Yeah, there's communities there in towards southern Decatur. It's pretty rural. Gadsden's part of the warning, not as heavy right now, which is good news. We'll back this up an hour. See how it was heavier in some of this earlier on with more concentrated reds. So at least that's a positive trend here. I'm just trying to keep you updated. So what we're going to do, we're just going to leave the radar running for now. And we'll pop back in if and as needed here through the day on this stream. So just keep it tuned here to Cloud Weather. I'll keep you guys up to date. If we get more flash flood warnings, we'll break in for those. Of course, if we have some, more pertinent details, I'll be updating you the best I can here on the overall situation. We're just going to leave this running here, and I'll pop back in here as necessary. So just keep it tuned here. I have it on the past hour. On that loop here. I think that's what I'll leave it at for now here. I think this is a pretty good view of it, but I will also make sure I click on our warning so you guys can see that there. A pretty good look at our viewing circle though, as we're updating you with things the best we can. Again, we'll leave this up so you can see the radar. We have the flood watches in that darker green underneath here on the radar. That threat lasting all the way into Monday. So a wet period here. Have that umbrella on hand. Be careful in the roads, obviously, out there. And just remember, if you see a flooded roadway, remember, turn around, don't drown. That's the Weather Service's mantra here. That's going to be important over the next few days here with this wet pattern that we're in. A lot of us under a flood watch situation. And just have to be cognizant here with the potential with a flash flood warning for that rapid water rise. So, again, in some of these spots. So just got to be watching, got to be tracking. I'm going to leave the radar running for now. I see Jason Peter Trail Adventures also tuning on in here on this Saturday. Just appreciate everybody's viewership. But it's going to be more of a radar stream, hopefully, here at this point forward, unless we need to pop back in. But if I need to pop back in, I will. So just keep it tuned here I'll keep you guys informed. Flash flood warning for parts of Decatur, Gadsden, and also into Grady counties in our area till 3:45. Stay safe. This is a clouds weather alert. Meteorologist Casey Cloud breaking back in here on this Saturday afternoon. We do have a flash flood warning continuing there at about 3:45 as we're looking out toward parts there of Decatur County and toward our area. And if I kind of click around here, you see part of Gadsden County, a little bit of Grady County as well. I know we're seeing the rain rate slack off quite a bit in that zone though. So that's some good news, but there have been some significant totals over there as we've been looking, at least based on some radar estimates. So go ahead and kind of pause this view here. We'll switch over to the Tallahassee radar and we'll look in here. You see some heavier downpours still here and there. Some of that's just under for the area, but a lot lighter in terms of the overall scenario. Then I'll go back 3 hours. You can see how we had a lot heavier convection earlier on as we were looking at the overall scenario there. But again, things are slacking off some there. As we're looking toward that zone. So that's good news. I mean, they're already slacking off earlier on when we were on, but even more so here in the last little bit. But that warning still technically in play till 3:45. I know we'll kind of play it by ear in a situation here where if this warning goes away and we don't see too many more imminent threats, we might cut the stream a little after that. We'll see. But, we do have to watch some other things here. I know the main thing, we have some thunderstorm acts and rollboat in the southeast Georgia. There was actually, that was something I noted. There's a few different things I've been looking at here behind the scenes I wanted to talk about. We did actually get a tree knock down here. Didn't have any severe warnings or anything, but Wakulla County earlier on toward the late morning hours, mid-late morning hours, with a tree down block some cutoff there. So noted that in our system. Then we do have more instability up in here and towards southeastern Georgia. So we have to make sure none of these go severe. Right now, nothing looks really overwhelming. It looks like we just had some more advisories go away here for the moment at 2:30 for the significant weather advisory type of alert there that we get. But, just something to be mindful of. I know we do have some flood advisories here as we look here towards some of our different zones. Not as many as we had earlier on. I know I call those maybe, I said not really flood alerts. They are flood alerts, but not a flash flood warning or a flood warning. Flash flood warning will go off on a weather radio, for instance. So a level below is what I'm kind of referring to with that here as we're looking at the overall situation. So just want to, kind of talk about this, though. You do see here the Doppler. Again, the overall view here does show a rainy Saturday. That's the big headline, the big takeaway message. A rainy Saturday here for sure, even though some of these areas out here definitely getting quite a bit of rain. I'll go to this through the last, 12 hours. It was less time frame, a shorter time frame than that. But north of Gretna there and towards southwestern Georgia, 5 inches or so, according to the estimate on here. So that's significant. You see some spots in Taylor County here picking up a good bit of rain as well. And then they get down the coast here, parts of Dixie County. Let's zoom in here a little bit. You'll be able to see it on Horseshoe Beach. Of course, they got hit so hard by Idalia and Helene. A few inches of rain there down toward that area. Some of these areas where we do need the rain, but just too much too quick is not always the most helpful. Down toward Yankeetown and Inglis, they're about 5 inches. And the last 12 hours, some of that's a shorter time frame, just kind of depending on where it is. I know Yankeetown area still holds the state rainfall record for most rain, from a tropical cyclone. That was back in 1950 with Hurricane Easy. It also holds just, the 24-hour record for most rain ever in state history as well from that storm system. That was the first year they named hurricanes there in the Atlantic Basin, 1950, and it's still, our area. And, Yankeetown still holds that record. It was 45 inches, I think, from the actual tropical cyclone itself. Easy, but, zooping around there for a while back in 1950. So, this is nothing compared to that, but still noteworthy. Nonetheless, as we're looking toward that zone, as we keep you informed again, still this flash flood warning back out here till 3:45. As we're looking, some of the rates a little quicker in that zone than other spots. Just kind of worth noting. And again, we still have that flash flooding risk today here. And then we also have a situation here where I do want to see those 7-day rainfall forecast numbers. Those 7-day rainfall forecast numbers are pretty significant here as we're looking. So don't want you guys, the Euro model is really underdoing things. There's a glitch of the HRRR that I kind of figured out here over the last few moments looking through things. I want to clarify that as well. There's a glitch with our system because what I was showing you, the HRRR earlier on, was incorrect. with some of that stuff into Monday. It's quite a bit higher than that. I can't see the 12Z. There's a glitch with that for whatever reason, but we have to kind of clarify that here. I just want to make sure that you guys understand. Even in the euro, that was accurate information. It's underdoing things. It seems the HRRR there is a scenario where it was somehow it's not showing the model run properly from 12Z. And then we do have a scenario here, though, where this is the official forecast here. A lot of this over a shorter time frame, really, though, as I kind of narrow it down. So quite a bit more rain is on the way here, it would seem. I know the Barron model showed maybe a little less at points, but we'll just have to see. But again, the HRRR, the actual run of that, it was showing quite a bit more. Just what we said in the system there was not showing properly for whatever reason. But again, we're looking here at the overall information into Georgia. I know I can see, I do have it together on here, the mode with the run, one of the latest HRRR runs. It won't go out to 48 hours though, but this will at least give us an idea here of what to anticipate, into the, coming hours. Just until 6 a.m. tomorrow, we're talking about, quite a bit more rain maybe for Perry, maybe even Tallahassee here in North Levy County. It's still, not an easy forecast by any means, and it still isn't going to be exactly right by any means. The models have still had trouble, but just that one run of that was thrown off there somehow in our system. So I just, want to make sure that we give you the correct information the best we can here in the Weather Center. So again, we're just trying to keep you informed here the best we can. Again, in the war just tomorrow at 6 a.m. the HRRR is showing significant totals here as we're looking at the overall weather information. So you can see multiple inches toward Levy. That could start getting us some, more higher end flood alerts, because we really haven't seen any flash flood warnings down there. We might start getting that. We don't get them down there that much. I mean, it is, an area here pretty rural, for part of the county, and we're looking towards Cedar Keys right at the water, but eventually it could just be too much here for them in terms of the overall rainfall story. And that's why we do have a flood watch here on play. I'm going to get back to analysis mode now. We're going to go over this here. Let me pull our flooding risk up here. It's a good one to go to. You don't see anything that's overwhelming right now. A little bit in north, southeast Georgia, a little bit here. We're not seeing the reds, and the oranges like we had in the flash flood warning earlier on. So again, we do want to say here, though, parts of Wakulla, really the whole county of Wakulla under this, but it's just parts of Jefferson under the flood watch, and then you have all of Taylor there. You have Lafayette, Dixie, Suwanee. Then you have parts of Columbia, parts of Alachua, parts of Marion. You get down the coast here. You have, I know we kind of jump between 3 weather services, so it's easy to kind of miss spots. But of course, we're watching them for Levy County, as we've alluded to there. We're watching for Trenton and Bell and Gilchrist County. So again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest here on the overall situation. Again, we have, Wakulla and coastal Jefferson, Taylor, Lafayette, Suwanee, parts of Columbia, Dixie, Gilchrist, parts of Alachua, Levy, and parts of Marion under the flood watch there. As we're watching things overall into the timeline. So there's, go into Monday here, so we have to stay vigilant here. We've already had the last 7 days of rain. You see a lot of rain already in Levy County. So you add that with the next 7 according to the rainfall outlook, and that is significant there as we're looking at the overall information. So you have to be very mindful of that here as we look ahead, getting over the next week or so. Really it's a lot shorter period than that. Let's narrow that down here. You see the overall timeline. It's the next few days is when the bulk, the vast majority of that will be happening. We still have some of that light in South Georgia, some flood advisories up here right now. As we look toward parts of Clinton County there, you have parts of Charlton County. And then as we get further over parts of Brantley County, it's the Charlton, another portion of that in there. So again, watching things, so the hour, rainfall estimates, well, let's do 3 hour, but we'll go ahead and you can see significant amounts here in some of these zones. So it's pretty rural out here. That's why we don't have like a flash flood warning yet. But south of Jamestown, 5 inches of rain here as we're looking at the overall scenario. So just want to be mindful. I know it's still not an easy forecast. We don't have, like a flood watch in some of these areas further north, and we are seeing, some of that potential at least. It's very tricky, but, the models have not handled it well. But that one model run that I was showing you earlier on, somehow it was not showing the correct numbers from that 12Z. Again, just through 6 a.m. tomorrow, this is what we're expecting here. So that's more than what it was showing to 6 a.m. Monday on that. It was somehow the 12Z was not, H triple R, there's been some issue here with the system somehow. Got to try to figure that out in terms of some of that data loading. So again, just trying to keep you guys informed here. I want to make sure we're giving you the most accurate information. So again, looking here, we're going to go ahead and show you here again these 12-hour totals already, what's, falling in these zones. But now things have slacked off generally. Granted, that's a pretty high DVZ value that I was clicking on. This is not near as concentrated as it was here. And it's all, you see all this heavier rain a few hours ago. I mean, speaking of spots that were getting heavier rain, I'll move this over here in just a moment. Let's go a little faster with this. 5 minutes here on the increments. We'll watch how this was coming on through there toward that spot there and toward those zones. But then as we get out toward the east here, you can see out toward Bradford County. I know it's clear now, but let's go back 4 hours here. We had storm action, we had sun, and then rain during that sun, and then we ended up getting over and into rain in a 15-minute period, right, around that frame, with, right after that, really, from 11:15 to 11:30. So just a very efficient rainfall producer. So I'll zoom in really tight here on how all that was going here. I'm near the Stark Country Club, that general zone there in terms of the geography. So just want to kind of, show that to you there as well. I had quite a bit of lightning kind of erupting there in that timeline, as you'll be able to see. So kind of zoom out just a little bit here. We'll watch that through one more time. Going across that 301 corridor. Definitely seeing that impact. And to the east, is where I'm at. But so that's kind of the storyline right now. We'll keep the radar running while this flash flood warning's in play, and if we get more, we'll break back in and keep things longer. But they may even drop this a little early. It goes to 345, but we still have some rain over that warned areas. It's not near as heavy overall, but we have some stuff in southeast Georgia. Instability values are a lot higher up there compared to the rest of our area because we've seen, I don't know if it'll show it to you now, but the temperatures here, in Brunswick still at 93, folks, and at 90 warmer, temperatures in that corridor of our viewing circle. So, and let's see, the power outages, a handful of them. So, just got to be taking note of things. Got to be vigilant here as we're watching things the best we can. So, I'll go ahead and go to this viewpoint here. We'll show you this, and I'll loop it here. Let's loop it 1 hour. So we'll loop this here 1 hour, and you'll kind of be able to see the progression of things here. That flash flood warning still continues. Honestly, it looks like some, that toward Gadsden maybe a little heavier at the moment. So I'll leave it over on that, side of things here with the indicator. Let me take questions, comments real quick. There is a significant advisory now toward Brunswick area, it looks like. And that overall vicinity was a storm starting to see, just here in that broad breast frame as that kind of heads off toward the northeast there, a little bit more of that upscale growth, it would seem. So, again, I just have to be mindful of that here. I just appreciate everybody tuning in, see if there's any more questions, comments. I don't see anything right now, but just appreciate everybody tuning in here on this Saturday afternoon. I'll be back here as warranted. Just stay safe. It's going to be, active period still with all this rain over the next couple of days. A wet period here with the overall meteorology. So just stay safe and stay informed here with cloud weather. Again, trying to keep you up to date here on the overall scenario the best I can to stay safe out there. Flash flood warning does continue for portions of the viewing circle out there toward the Florida Big Bend, a little bit of Gadsden there, and toward Decatur, and it's a small sliver of Grady here for a little less than an hour here that's left on that warning, though it may go away early. We'll just have to wait and see.